Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio. Welcome you to another segment, another version of Destination Health Podcast, Finding Function in a Dysfunctional World. I'm really excited about today's guest. Okay. I love beach volleyball. All right. And I am sitting here with professional beach volleyball player, Emily Stockman. Emily, welcome to the program today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you know what?
Great.
Just as a little background, Emily and I were talking 8 months ago or so
We're finally here. We did it.
to do the podcast, and my schedule and her schedule just have not coincided. She's been around the world, winning volleyball matches and so forth and so on. I think maybe what we're going to do is we're going to do a live podcast after a match, after you guys won and you won and you're ready to rock and roll. I think that would be great. So anyway, Emily Stockman, Colorado native, moved to California in 2014 to pursue her career in beach volleyball. She went to Wichita State University, two-time All-American in volleyball, 4 years at the professional level overseas. You played a lot of volleyball. She decided to make her transition to beach. 2015, she made the elite development program at the USAV and ranked number 2 in the United States and in the top 10, number 9 in the world. Oh my goodness, that's just incredible. 2 gold medals, 2 silvers, 3 bronze medals on the world tour. Won first Queen of the Beach champions. You've done it all. You've just done it all. So welcome to the program. I'm very excited about this. Why volleyball? What was that moment in your life that you decided to do volleyball?
It's all actually started because I have a sister that is 2.5 years older than me. So growing up as kids, I always wanted to do everything she did. So she played basketball. I played basketball. Once she started getting into volleyball, I wanted to play volleyball. I just looked up to her so much and just kind of followed in her footsteps.
And so you decided, this is it. I'm going to go into volleyball and so forth and so on. So you went to Wichita State. Did you go on a scholarship? Were you really good right away when you started volleyball? Was it something that really resonated with your soul? And you're like, wow, you know what? I could do this. And it's something I love to do, and I'm ready to do it.
So actually growing up, basketball was my first love. I started playing basketball in 3rd grade, and I actually played all through high school and had scholarship offers for both basketball and volleyball. And so I didn't start volleyball seriously until high school, my freshman year of high school. And it not that it came easy, but I was already an athlete. I was a 4-sport athlete all through high school. I did many different sports growing up. So it was like, once I started getting on the volleyball court, I was like, oh, this is super fun. And I was pretty good at it from the beginning.
Right.
I was actually a little smaller for indoor. So I always had to prove myself. It's something that has been a part of my career ever since I can remember, is going out and having to prove myself. And it's a challenge that I've now accepted, and I love it because, there's been a lot of doubters and a lot of just wonders if I'm actually going to make it. And so that's kind of, even in high school, it was like, I don't know, like, is she good enough? And there are some players that wanted me to be on varsity as a sophomore, and the coach said no. And so it's just kind of from like that point on, I was like, you don't think I'm good enough? I'll show you that I am.
Emily, you just opened up the Pandora's box of having a million questions that I have running through my mind when I'm listening to you. And as you know, and what we were discussing, and all my listeners know, that we love to motivate, educate, and inspire. So this is where the rubber meets the road, in other words. So were you told you weren't good enough, or you just individuals didn't have the confidence in you? Was that the case?
Yeah. With volleyball and basketball, I specifically remember basketball in high school being told that I wasn't good enough, and I wouldn't ever really get past being a JV player. So my freshman year of high school, I was on JV. But then our team did really well. Our varsity team was doing well and they made it to state. So then they asked me to play up for state.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my first of like, I am good enough and I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into my sophomore year, I actually made varsity. And then same
Awesome.
thing with volleyball. It was just, I started playing for a really good club volleyball team in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the team, but I never got playing time ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard for me to sit there and watch these girls because in my
Mm-hmm.
head, I'm like, I know I'm good enough. I know that I can compete with these girls.
Mm-hmm.
But the coach, for some reason, he wasn't giving me a chance. And then we had one of our players got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my time to shine. I had a tournament that I went out there and
You did your thing. You just did your thing.
Yeah, I went out there and performed really well. And I really thought like, this is it. Like he's going to see me. He's going to see that I'm good and it's going to be great. And then the second that the player got better, she went back in and I was back on the bench. But
That must have been very frustrating at that point because you're
very
putting a lot of you're putting a lot of time
Mhm.
into your craft and you want to start and so forth and so on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And luckily I had an amazing support system
Mhm.
at home. My parents, even my sister, they were all very supportive. And, my parents had sat me and my sister down at a young age and basically said, like, we will do everything we can for you guys to play
Mhm.
sports if that's what you want to do. But once you start, you can't stop. Like it's one of those things.
Right.
We're gonna put all the money and effort into it, but you have to see it through.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's smart on their point. I have a son
Hmm.
who's in the
Yeah.
next room. He's studying right now math. And Emily, he's a pretty good he's a really good hockey player.
Nice.
And I said to him, once you start this, and if you do obtain a certain level,
Hmm.
of play, he's playing tier one, he's playing triple A, it's the highest level, and I said, you have to, if you love it, you gotta put the work in, right? You have to put the
Right.
work in.
Right.
So, you had to have mental toughness during this time where, you were out there, you're all excited, and now you're sitting back on the bench. What
Right.
did you do? What did you say to yourself? What did you have any strategies for that mental toughness to sit there and say, I'm not giving up no matter what anybody says?
Yeah. I mean, definitely my parents were a part of pushing me into that
Hmm.
and kind of reminding me, that
Hmm.
you can't quit. This isn't the time to quit. Um,
This is the time to rock and roll, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just to do everything that I could that was in my control. I think
Hmm.
one of the biggest, like the best advice that I've ever gotten
Right.
is to pay attention and focus on what I can control and not what I can't. I
Right.
can't control that my coach doesn't want to play me, but I can control that when I get the opportunity, I take advantage of it. And when I'm
Mhm.
at practice, I give it everything I have.
All
Uh,
just leave it all right there on the court, right? I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that. That is amazing.
yeah.
And were there times during this, did you doubt yourself? Did you sit there and say, you know what, Emily, what am I doing? Is this all worth it? That type of
Yeah.
stuff. Did you ever, what was that like?
Yeah, it was hard. Honestly, I think the best thing I had for myself was that I had other sports and I
Hmm.
had other things I was doing, so I could
Hmm.
kind of focus on that as well. Um, that's why I think it's just so important for kids growing up to play multiple sports. Because, at that time, volleyball wasn't going great for me. But then
Hmm.
I had basketball, and
Hmm.
basketball was actually my number one sport anyway. So it's like I could
Hmm.
focus on that. And then it was like if I was doing well in that and I felt confident, that would kind of roll over to the volleyball court to where I could
Sure.
still feel that confidence.
So you can have that confidence, you can have that swagger when
Mhm.
you're changing from one to the other. And you
Yeah.
know what? And you just opened up another Pandora's box. Kids today, they don't play multiple sports. It's important
Right.
to play multiple sports. I have my son playing baseball,
Yeah.
hockey, he plays basketball. You
Yeah.
have to do multiple sports. You got to develop different muscles. And it
Definitely.
keeps it fresh, right? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
playing volleyball, I mean, that's your profession now. But,
right.
growing up, it was one of those situations where, okay, you know what? I need to develop also in other aspects, and let's play some basketball, right?
Exactly. I think mentally and physically, it's so good for kids because
Mhm,
from a physical standpoint, if you are just, from the age of 10 to 18, like I'm a
mhm.
volleyball player, you will get burned out. I can hands down guarantee you're going to get burned out. So I think it's important to have different avenues to go down. And it doesn't necessarily have to be another sport. It can be music or it can be,
I love that.
writing or
Yes.
whatever you're into. Um, and then, yeah, from like the other physical standpoint is like overuse injuries. If you keep doing the same thing, especially as a kid that you're still growing, you're still developing, overuse injuries are so common. So I think it's good to just cross train and give
Mhm.
yourself breaks when you need them.
So besides sports, what other things did you do in order to keep it fresh and to, get away from it and, miss
Um,
it?
well, I grew up in Colorado and I'm very much of a mountain girl. So any chance I had to get to the mountains, whether it was going camping with my family, I grew up riding dirt bikes.
Mhm.
A lot of it is still sports related, but more into extreme sports. I started skiing when I was 3 years old. Um,
You've just been athletic all of your life.
yeah, I kind of have. I mean, I was born into it. My dad was really into extreme sports growing
Mhm.
up, and my mom was a tennis player. So it was just part of the family.
It was just a natural progression.
Yeah.
It's a family affair.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
now, you know, what was that moment in time that you said to yourself, this is it. I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to start. I mean, you're a two-time All-American. That's no easy feat,
Right.
to sit there and say, hey, listen, Emily's a two-time All-American. And so she wasn't even playing at one point in time. What was
Yeah.
that point in time where you just sat there and said, you know what? No more.
Yeah.
I'm out there now. What was that? What was going through your mind?
Um, I mean, a lot of it is that I obviously enjoyed the sport and I loved being out there.
Mhm.
The other side of it was out there to prove people wrong, because there were times where I'd be interested in certain colleges and people would tell me, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough. So then when I got a full ride scholarship, I was like, now that I'm here, I'm going to prove to everybody that I deserve to be here and I want to be
Mhm.
the best. I Yeah, I've always been I don't want to be mediocre at stuff. I like everything I do. I'm like I want to be the best and I'm going to put in the time and the effort it takes to be the best that I can be.
And you got that from your parents, or is that something that you just always had when you were growing up?
Um Maybe a little bit of both. I
Hmm.
think growing up with my dad, whenever we would go riding our dirt bikes,
Hmm.
I would see him a lot. He was just fearless on his I mean, he still is fearless on his motorcycle. So,
How old is
he
he?
would
How old is he?
he's I wanna say he's gonna be 66 maybe in
Oh wow,
April.
so he's still rocking and rolling. Good for him.
Oh, yeah, him and my mom they're actually in Arizona right now riding their motorcycles every day. Yeah.
Awesome.
But he would go and, like, jump a log or find a boulder and try to climb up it and then jump
Hmm.
off of it, and it was like, I would see him do it and do it and do it until he got it exactly until he perfected it.
And that was just that left such an impression upon you, from what I'm
Yeah,
sensing, where you're
yeah,
like, wow, if my dad can do it, and if he could still do it at the age of
yeah,
66,
yeah,
I'm still going to be able to do this because
exactly.
you know what? And what I find interesting, see, you never know where the conversation is going to go, Emily,
I
with me.
know.
What I find interesting is that with my son, I'm 60 years old and he's 14.
Mhm.
And, I recently did, in fact, say to myself, you know what? I want to get into really good shape because I want to show him. He was talking to my mother, his grandmother. He was saying, well, dad did this sport and dad played football and he did this. He goes, I don't see it. He's like, I don't see it. And I said, you know what? You little, I said, I
Right,
said,
right.
you have no idea that the intensity your old man can bring when it comes to something like this. But
Yeah.
then I thought further and I said, I want to impress upon him that no matter what is going through with your life, you always have that chance to succeed. You always have that chance to overcome, just like you did, right? When you were playing and they were sitting, and you were sitting, you were out there. I want to do that. So kudos to your dad, because
Yeah.
moms and dads that do this, I think that they have children that have that same, fortitude. So when you got your chance, you took advantage of it. Tell us about that.
I sure did.
Oh, I know you
Sure
did,
did.
without you even saying, because I can picture you swagger going out there. I can picture the eyes piercing. I can picture
That's right.
like the, I can't say the word, but the eating grin. You're like, okay, it's my time, right?
That's kind of funny because I remember walking to a match one time and my assistant coach was walking behind me and he's like, Stockman, what's wrong with you? Why are you're limping? And I turned around and I was like, Coach, it's just my swag. I'm not hurt. It's just my swag.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. But so I actually went to Winthrop University my freshman year on a full ride scholarship.
Mhm.
Um, and Winthrop was, kind of a mid to low level women's volleyball team.
Uh-huh.
And so going into that school, even the coach was actually great. He recruited me, he wanted me there. He had very high expectations for me and was expecting me, to be this freshman starting outside hitter, be the freshman player of the year for the conference. And the season was very up and down for me. I felt a lot of pressure because as a freshman, I moved to South Carolina. I don't know anybody here. I'm a freshman. And I was kind of expected to be a leader on the court. And I was very out of my comfort zone and didn't really know how to take on that role. So I didn't have the best freshman year and I was not freshman player of the year. And then my coach ended up leaving after my first semester there. And he had promised me and my dad that he would be there for at least 5 years when we went on my official visit. And, it happens all the time in college sports, coaches leave.
If you get a call, and there's a D1 school that's knocking at your door, or whatever that case may be, right, Emily? You got it. I mean, you can't blame it. You can't blame them for taking that chance, right?
Right. So when he had called me and told me that, I told him that I was going to leave as well, because he was kind of the only reason I went there. I liked him as a coach. And so then it got kind of messy. It's transferring these days is really easy for collegiate athletes, which I think is good and bad. It was not that way when I needed to transfer. I had to go to the athletic director and give them a list of schools that I wanted to transfer to and give them a reason why I wanted to transfer to those schools. And then they would decide if they would release me or not. So it was a process.
There's a whole process, right?
Yeah. And I finally committed to Wichita State and it was amazing. Like the best decision I could have made for myself. The coach, the fans, the facilities, everything was just top notch. We were a top 25 program the whole time I was there.
You brought it to the top 25 now, didn't you? Be honest, right? Don't have to be humble.
I definitely helped.
Definitely helped out. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that was, once I got there, it was like, I had to fight for a starting position, but I got it from, the day I was there until the day I left. And then because we were a top 25 program, it was like, okay, now how can we take it to the next level? Like, what else can we do?
What else is there left, right? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great. So, I'm thinking of a question where, for our young viewers, that are out there, high school, maybe in college, I'm way past college. I
Yeah.
think I started college, it's in the 70s sometimes. That was a long time ago, Emily. So, so the love and the dedication of the sport, what was your workout routine like, off season, in season? Discuss that a little bit, because I think that a lot of kids today, they don't have perhaps what you and I had when
Mhm.
we were in college competing. And I think that this is an important question, because I look at, my son's hockey team, I look at some of the high school kids. I mean, there's always this, and there's
Right.
always the computer, they're always doing this. I mean, we
Mhm.
were training and we were talking about this. It's like you got up in the morning during the summer, maybe you had a little part-time job, but you got up and you were pumping iron. You went to somebody's garage or you went to somebody's basement back in
Yeah.
those days,
Yeah.
and you were just pumping iron. And I notice in your videos, it seems like you're in your garage and you're like pumping iron, right? And you're training.
Mhm.
What was that? What was that like for you? And how did you attack that?
I loved working out for
Mm-hmm.
as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
I just and it's not always necessarily the workout that I love, it's the feeling of when I'm done and what I've accomplished and how good I
Yes.
feel.
Right.
So that was something that I don't remember, lifting a ton of weights growing up,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know that once I committed to Winthrop, they
Mm-hmm.
sent me a packet of the
Right.
workouts that I needed to do that summer to prepare for college. So that was kind of the first time I remember like really focusing on working out. Um, and I just know, I think a part of it too is like, if I'm strong enough, I can be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just knowing that if I did these things, it would transfer over to the court
Mm-hmm.
and I could be that much better.
Right. Sure. I
Yeah.
love that. So now you're at Wichita State, two-time All-American. That took a lot of effort, right? And that took a
Mhm.
lot of that, that's an incredible accomplishment. Were you still hungry after you had, two-time All-American? You were like, I'm just beginning, or, oh,
Yeah.
this is, is this, because a lot of athletes, right? They're like, it's nice, it's cute, I got this,
Yeah.
I still want to go on. But did you still have that drive? You're like, okay, I'm not even scratching the surface at this point.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely did. I still remember to this day my last collegiate volleyball game, and it was absolutely heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't done and that I still hadn't peaked in the sport.
Hmm.
Um, and go like all through college, I had the most amazing teammates and coaches
Hmm.
that, we were all on the same page of wanting to better the program
Hmm.
and having the same goals in mind. And so even those days that I felt, oh, I don't want to get up and go to an individual at 6 a.m., I had teammates that were like, we're getting up and we're going.
Yeah.
So it was
Right.
definitely a
Sure.
team effort to make all that stuff happen.
Absolutely.
And then, so my senior year, the end of my senior year, I got an offer to go play in Puerto Rico
Hmm.
professionally. Um, and so I really, really wanted to go.
Hmm.
But I also knew that I had to get shoulder surgery. So I had shoulder surgery scheduled for that spring.
Hmm.
And the spring is when I was supposed to go to Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
And so I went home for the holidays and then came back in January to Wichita
Hmm.
and got on the volleyball court and tried to play. And my
Hmm.
shoulder was so torn up.
Mm.
I was just like, I can't, because I wanted to postpone the surgery to go to Puerto Rico.
Right.
But it was just, I just knew that I couldn't. And that was so hard for me.
Yeah, that would have been disastrous. That would have been something that, if you tore
Yeah.
that shoulder up even more,
Yeah.
what was the sense of
Yeah.
even doing that, right? So
Exactly.
that always, I mean, those are decisions that athletes have to make, right?
They're so hard. Yeah, it was a very hard decision. And I honestly, I probably would have done it, but my parents were the ones that were like, no, you can't. Like, I would go play volleyball for an hour and I couldn't even lift my arm
You
after.
couldn't lift your arm up. So then you had the surgery. So you had to overcome shoulder surgery, right?
I did. Yep.
Did you attack it in the same way as, hey, listen, you think I'm not good enough? Ha 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 ha. Watch me, right?
Yeah. I think at that point, I was like, I was so bummed to not be able to go to Puerto Rico that I was like,
Mhm.
I want to go so bad that I will, I'm going to do whatever I can to get my shoulder right and get back on track so that I can go play, because I knew that I was not done playing volleyball yet.
Mhm. And
So,
then that's when you went overseas and you decided to play
mhm.
overseas. And where did you play overseas?
So my first place overseas was the Maldives.
Mhm.
And then I went to France, Finland, Sweden, and Switzerland.
Oh, you've been all over the world, and you're still
I've
going all over the
been
world,
all
right?
over. Yeah. I decided that when I was playing overseas, I wanted to experience different cultures and go to different
Mhm.
places. So
Awesome.
every season I went to a new spot.
Awesome. I think that's important to do also in addition to.
Incredible.
So yeah, you get your college degree, and now you're playing
Mhm.
overseas. It's good to be Emily Stockman at that point in time, right? It doesn't stink,
It
right?
doesn't. I mean, it definitely was not an easy time of my life. It's
In what
just,
way? Why wasn't it easy? Just being away from
it,
home, or
yeah, being away from home. It was the first time I'd missed Christmas with my family.
Mhm.
Um, it was not being fully, I mean, I was back to swinging and my shoulder was good, but I was
Mhm.
not swinging the way that I used to yet.
Mhm.
It took me almost 2 years to get back to normal.
Post surgery, really.
Post surgery, yeah. Um, it just took me a while to get my strength back and get that confidence back. And I'm playing in a country where, when I was in France, there was not another American on the team. The coach didn't speak English. None of the girls, there was a couple girls that spoke English, but a lot of the French girls didn't. Um,
You were a fish out of water, as they say.
it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I It was definitely, and then a lot of the girls, they're either still in university
Mhm.
or they have full-time jobs.
Right.
So it's like I don't have people to hang out with. I'm just kind of there. And
Mhm.
we would lift in the morning and then practice in the evening. And then I had all day to just do nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but didn't have a car, didn't know how to get around. It was just, it was wild.
So you're taking the metro, and you're gonna go get a little espresso somewhere or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
because that's
yeah,
probably as far as it went, right? You
exactly.
know? So then
But
you
I
gotta
mean,
you gotta
in
learn
the
how
end,
to
it
speak
ended up,
French and stuff like that, right?
oh my
Como,
God.
it's like "Comment vous appelez-vous?" "Oh, je m'appelle Emily." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no, you didn't even
Oh, it
have
was
that."
so hard. Yeah, and I had never spoke a word of French in my life.
Mhm,
I did take French class when I got there,
mhm.
which the first day of French class, the teacher sat me down and handed me a book, and she's like, "Okay, read this paragraph." And I looked at it and I'm like, I said, "I've literally never spoken French in my life."
I've never done this, so you're gonna have to teach me how to
Yeah,
conjugate verbs, and
yeah,
what's the feminine and the masculine
exactly.
aspect of this, and
Yeah, she said,
there's
"That's
ill, there's
okay, I'll
L,
help you through it." And I was like, it took me probably 30 minutes to read through that
right?
paragraph because she had to correct
And to
every.
this day, you still don't understand what it meant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Still don't know what I was reading.
So what was that moment in time then that you decided you wanted to, stop being in Europe and you wanted to go beach? What was that, and why? Why did
Yeah.
you go beach volleyball?
I had always had dreams of going to the Olympics, and I just I am not the tallest and the best in indoor.
Mhm,
Uh, I felt like I can hold my own, but when
mhm,
it comes to the best players in the world, it's just I'm not there
mhm,
indoor. So the beach route was the way for me to get to the
mhm,
Olympics. And every summer, so the 4 years that I played in Europe, every summer I would come to California and
mhm,
just spend a couple months here just messing around on the beach, and ended up falling in love with the game that way.
mhm.
So then in 2014, I was finishing up my last indoor season in Switzerland and then made the move to California that April.
And that's when you decided to jump into beach.
That's when I went all in.
Were you successful right away?
Um, yes and no. I made the elite development program right away, which was nice. That was kind of the pipeline into USA beach volleyball. Um, but that was it was very hard because most of those girls were born and raised in California. They had been in the pipeline since they were 12 years old.
Right.
I'm 26 at this time. I'm stepping on the beach for the first time at 26, and these girls have been playing since they were 12.
That must have been another challenge that you had to overcome, right?
It was a huge challenge,
Sure.
and the politics that go into volleyball and sports in general is just outrageous.
It's thick
And
now, isn't
yeah,
it?
yes. And so
I get it.
yeah, it was hard. And volleyball, as you know, it's not the NBA. We're not making millions. So I had a full-time job. I was a personal trainer for 4 years. So I was, doing everything. I was lifting, I was practicing on the sand, doing my recovery stuff, and then I'd have to go work for 5 hours at night. And I was training 9 to 13 clients a night.
And
So
you
it's
just
like,
and you just did it because you just loved it, and you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
this is how I'm going to make my living, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So, number 2 in the United States, that's not an easy task either, right?
No, it was
Who
not.
was number 1 at the time?
I think April Ross and Alex Kleinman.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And who's number 1 now?
It's weird because after an Olympic year is when all the partnerships everyone kind of splits and makes. I want to say it's Kelly Clays and Betsy Flint. I'm pretty sure that's number 1 right now.
And you're gunning for them right now, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. And you're gunning for them. And so tell me, I mean, you were ranked number 9th in the world at one time and 2nd in the United States. I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at. So the amount of effort that must have gone into that, and the love and the passion for the game,
Yeah.
must have been tremendous. Because as I said to you before, I love beach volleyball. I love the males, the females. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I love the beach. I love to be by the ocean, the
Yeah.
sand, whatever that is. I mean, I just think it's a phenomenal sport. I've never played it though, but it's just one of those things. I mean,
Yeah.
that you have this affinity to. So what are your goals coming up now for 2022?
For 2022, it's to, find the right teammate and start making a run for the 2024 Paris Olympics. It's a very long qualifying process. And so, trying to find the right teammate right now to make that push is what the goal is. And
that was my son.
Can I talk to you for 1 second?
hello.
No? Answer my text.
So yeah, just, trying to find that right person. And once there's like mini goals along the way. I want to win another AVP, which I've done. I want to win more medals on the world tour. Yeah,
What do you look for in a teammate? What would be your ideal teammate?
somebody that, it's so easy to say, oh, we have the same goals in mind. And that's great. Like, you want to have the same goals, but are you willing to sacrifice? Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice to make those goals happen? Like, it's a huge financial sacrifice to play on the world tour. It comes down to, you need the right coaches, you need the right trainers, sports psych, nutritionists, all these things. And it's like, are you willing to put time and money into all of these avenues to be successful as a team?
Sure. Now, is it difficult to find somebody like that? Is it always difficult?
I think so. I think it's easy to find somebody that has the same goals in mind.
Right.
I think it becomes more difficult when you find somebody that's actually willing
Right.
to make those sacrifices.
Right.
Mhm.
So So going to the Paris Olympics, you didn't, let's see, what does it say here? You were an alternate for the 2020, 2021 Olympics, right?
Correct.
What did that do to your psyche?
That sucked.
To say the least, right?
Tell you what, especially with the pandemic and how everything played out, it was the longest, gnarliest qualification. It was my first one, but it was emotionally, physically, everything, like so draining.
Right.
And to get to the very end, and we literally lost it at the last two tournaments of the season. So it literally came down after 3 years of solid qualifying events. It came down to the last two tournaments of the season.
Really?
So that was very hard. It was very hard to swallow and to be okay with that.
Mhm.
Especially because I felt like there was just stuff left on the table that, I just felt like we didn't do everything we could have. So that was hard to kind of get over. And honestly, I didn't watch a single thing of the Olympics because I was
Really? You just couldn't do, and I was going to
I
ask
couldn't do
that.
it.
What was that like for you to see everybody else out there except for yourself, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't watch any of it. Me and my sister lives in Colorado. I'm in California, and we met each other in Montana and just did a road trip out of it and stayed in the mountains. And I just didn't want to be around TVs. I didn't want to see updates. Yeah, it was hard.
That's the competitiveness in you coming out.
For sure. And honestly, I had a lot of personal stuff going on at this time as well. My uncle was really sick and ended up passing away.
Sorry to hear that.
Right during the Olympics. I had to move out of my house during Olympic qualification.
Mhm.
And I was just, so there's just a lot of personal stuff going on.
Yeah, life happens. Life
Life happens. And I was trying to decide if I was even going to keep playing.
Really?
I kind of like, my goal was to go to the Tokyo Olympics, win a gold medal and retire and just be done. I was happy. Like, that's what I wanted in the sport. And to not accomplish that and then have to decide, like, do I actually want to make another run? Because that was gnarly.
So let me ask you a question. How old are you now?
33.
Oh, you got time. Don't worry. You're gonna rock it this time.
Yeah.
You're gonna rock. So when you retire, what do you want to do?
I think I would like to personal train extreme sport athletes.
Really?
Like motocross, snowboarding, skiing. Yeah.
Because you do that type of stuff too, right?
That's definitely my passion outside of the sport.
Wow. That is very intense.
Yeah.
So what do you have coming up? What tours do you have coming up?
So the world tour has started already. So we were in Mexico the last 2 weeks, and then now we're home for about 3 weeks, and then we head off to Brazil. And then we come home for I think a week or two, and then starting May, it's crazy. We'll be traveling probably every weekend, whether it's domestically, internationally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it here in the States or do you have to go all over the place?
So the AVP is our domestic tour, and that's kind of all over the U.S. And then the FIVB is the world tour, and that's how the world tour is how you qualify for the Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I have a feeling that you're going to do just fine. I have a feeling that you're going to be rocking and rolling and you'll be all right. So when is your next tournament coming up? When is it now?
I don't know the exact date. Actually, I do know the exact date.
Yeah, I want to know the exact date because I want to put this in the show notes because.
Okay. It is April 14th to the 17th.
And where is that?
Itapema, Brazil.
And you're going to be in Brazil. And is this televised?
It's live streamed. So it's volleyballworld.tv.
Hold on 1 second. I'm putting
Okay.
this in the show notes.
Yeah.
And for my own edification, volleyball, what is it?
Volleyball World
Uh-huh.
.tv.
.tv.
Yeah. And it's
Okay.
a subscription that you have to buy. But the whole season of the FIVB will be live streamed on.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm going to work with you as your nutritionist. I think we're going to rock it. And, you know, you're going
Perfect.
to be, 10 hours a day, and you're going to look at me and going to say, that's it. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. You have no more, that's it. Let's go. I
Yeah.
need more. So it's all going to be good.
I love
Wow.
it.
You know what? We're almost at 50 minutes. I told you it goes quick
Yeah.
when you're having a great
It
conversation.
does. It does.
So if you were to leave young athletes some clinical pearls, if you were to say to them, if you were sitting in front of a bunch of junior high, middle school, girls and boys,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them?
I think the two biggest things would be to believe in yourself no matter what outside sources are telling you. Just focus on you. And I guess the second thing is it goes along with that, is that, what I said earlier is don't focus on what you can't control, only focus on the controllables. Because once you let outside noise kind of come in, it can change things for good or for bad. And I think if you can just focus on you and are you getting better? Don't compare yourself to other people. Like,
Right.
compare yourself. Did you get better from last week? Did you get better from last year?
Right.
Yeah. So just really, I think it's important to focus on yourself. And honestly, like whether it's a sports psych or a therapist, I think is massive. I didn't start using a sports psych until probably 2017 or 18. And I wish I would have started that earlier in my career. And I actually started working with a therapist in like November. And both of those things have been so big for me. I've
You know
never felt
what? We
better.
have some more time. I want to ask a couple of
Yeah.
questions about this, Emily, if it's okay with you, because
Yeah.
I know that a lot of teams are hiring on, sports psychologists, personal development type
Yeah.
coaches, and so forth. What was that like for you? What did they do for you?
They helped me focus, like to just be in the moment and know that, mistakes are going to happen, especially in beach volleyball. Like, I'm a perfectionist and I have a really hard time. So he's just taught me tools to use in those moments of frustration. And then he's recommended some really great books. Relentless is one of my favorite books.
Who wrote Relentless? I've heard.
Relentless is Tim Grover.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Extreme Ownership, another amazing book. So yeah, just kind of learning about myself and learning how to work on myself in those moments, but also learning how to be a leader and a really good teammate.
Right. Leadership is very important,
It's huge.
because in my day, we didn't have any of this, like the mental aspect of the game. I shouldn't say that, because there was somebody from some school, some college in northern New Jersey. They had us do some visualization, if you will, like some rudimentary visualization, like, it's already happened in your mind before you step out on the field,
Right.
the court, whatever that is. And, we were like this, we were like,
Right.
we weren't too into it. And at one point, I think we started to get more into it. And I look back and I think I'm saying to myself, maybe we should have done that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it would be extremely beneficial to help out.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think there's different, there's visualization, there's meditation, there's just all these different avenues that work better for different athletes.
Right.
So
Depending
just
upon
finding
what
what
that
works
is.
for you. Yeah.
So, for my friends that are listening right now from North Jersey,
Yeah.
they know I meditate, and boy, am I going to get it when I get into that office, Emily, because they're going to look at me and they're going to poke some good-natured fun at me, as they
Yeah.
always do whenever I say this. But keep in mind, boys, keep in mind, special forces do the same thing. So just to let you know, okay?
Mhm.
So
There you
they're
go.
all chomping at the bit. So I think
Yeah.
I'm there Thursday. So Emily, I'll text you and I'll say, wow, I'm really getting today's from
Yeah.
this.
Perfect.
Okay, almost done. What is it that you want out of life? Last question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I told you we get really good ones.
I like it. I definitely want to leave a lasting impression, to help those that think they're not good enough, or, just feel like they don't have the same opportunities that other people have.
Mhm.
So I'd love to help those people and be a voice for those people. Um, and I'm also a Christian, so to just see, what God's plan is for me, because I think that it's bigger than just volleyball, but I think He's giving me an awesome platform.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you're on the big stage. You have
yeah,
you have a
yeah,
large responsibility, and I see that you take that seriously. You want to be a good citizen. You want
yeah,
to do the right thing. In other words, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Share God's
Awesome.
love in all of it.
That's great.
Yeah,
So Emily, I want to thank you for being on today.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's 8 months in the making, and I'm glad we finally had the universe has come together for both
Exactly.
of our, and for everybody listening. We've been trying to do this for like 8 months, maybe a little bit more. And I
Yeah,
think it was last night, it just kind of like boom, it just kind of came
right.
together. So we said, well, if we don't do it now, it may never
Yeah,
happen.
exactly.
But now that it's done, we're going to have you back on again. Later on down into
Yeah,
the season. Let's see where you're at. You can talk about your experiences, because I love to hear stories about athletics, because you can translate that into life and business, academics, whatever
yeah,
that is.
yes.
Your relationships and so forth and so on. So it's really very fascinating to me. So thank you very much
Of
for
course.
saying
Thank
yes,
you.
and thank you for being on. I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody for listening in. Okay, so April 14th through the 17th, Emily's going to be in Brazil. Volleyballworld.tv. I'm getting the subscription. I want everybody to get the subscription who's my listener. Tune in and watch Emily and watch her. I can't say that word because there's those words that you can't say, when you're doing, but watch her win and watch her really,
Right.
really, really, really play hard, and it'll all be good. So,
Yes.
Emily, thank you very much for being here. Everybody live their best life, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.